Hi, roofers. Welcome back to another episode of the Roofing Webmasters podcast. I'm Madison, and we have Nolen with us today.
Hey guys, it's Nolen Walker here, one of the owners.
We're going to be going over digital marketing today,
Yeah.
and we're going to cover several aspects of that, as well as compare it with SEO, see how the two are different, and we're going to get some insights from Nolen on this one. First of all, Nolen, I'd love to get a picture of your background a little bit. I know you've talked about it before, but how long have you been working digital marketing?
Digital marketing started in 2000 and I guess 4-ish when we were auto dialing for a home security company that I had back when it was legal.
That's
so
right.
Roughly in 2004, Bush called in the No Calls Act. And we had a really cheap website up. And back then, most service businesses, home service businesses, and which home security was as well, did not have a website, or at least did not actively participate in the web. It was still Yellow Pages. Makes me feel really old, but yeah, it was still Yellow Pages and Valpak and money mailers and maybe even postcarding new homeowners, stuff like that.
So a cheap website was all you needed?
No, we actually went in and got a $10,000 website, which was cheap back then.
Okay.
And so we were po-boing it for $10,000, but we got a pretty good, what we thought was a good digital marketing agency, and $10,000 for 10 pages. And by 2005, telemarketing on auto dialing and really just telemarketing, the no calls list came into effect and all kinds of stuff. So we stopped doing that and went over and we paid back then a little less than $1 a click, and then we started organically optimizing. And it was just shy of Google Maps, by the way. So Google Maps wasn't around until like 05-ish. And to this day, I can't really remember Google Maps until 08. I remember some points of Google Map in 08, but I don't think it was really highly functional or used much in 05.
Yeah, just from what I remember, it was still pretty awkward back then to try to use that as a consumer.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the Pack 7. They had a pack, the packs have changed up and down, and unfortunately it had to go to Pack 3, by the way, because of phones. It took up too much real estate. Once mobile started going, the reason it went from Pack 7, presumably, to where they showed 7 maps to Pack 3 was because it was just too much real estate for a phone. And that caused all kinds of problems. But yeah, we got into it and started organically optimizing. We started paying for clicks. Back then, I didn't know any better. I stuck up like 3 or 4 websites and paid for clicks for all of them because they were so cheap.
Yeah, I mean, $1 is crazy.
Yeah, so we had like 75-cent clicks, 78-cent clicks. By the time I finished that in like 2010 and got out of that business and into this one, which has been almost a decade in this business, the clicks were up to like $30 a piece and stuff, and I'm sure they're higher than that for home security now. But yeah, we did all of that, hired a group of programmers and digital marketers and content writing. We had about 4 or 5 people because we had a pretty large home security company. And that's how I started. I really wish that back then I had like an aha moment and started this business. Because we would have cause anybody who started digital marketing for, say, roofers or any category at the time became the juggernaut, because if you had been doing websites for, say, roofers back in 05, 06, 07, 08.
You got the tenure.
You got everybody. There wasn't anybody that had a website, so anybody, there are some companies that come to mind that aren't necessarily roofing, because roofing didn't have specialties. Really, we were the first high-end specialized or web company for roofers. There was some people in, like, I remember auto repair. My dad's a CPA. I remember someone who did CPAs, which were demographically way more accounting firms and CPAs or auto shops and roofers. Roofers, if you look at government statistics, there's like 80,000 of them or something. Technically, there's probably more than that, because anybody in like Texas can hang a shingle and not be.
Yeah.
But back then, in those companies that did that got literally thousands of clients overnight, because all the auto shops started getting websites at one time. And some of those people who exist today that got CPAs or auto shops or other industries still have thousands of clients that never left them that were the original ones that originally where they went to get their website produced. We didn't get into the business right at that time. I was in home security, and I just kept learning more and more about marketing. And I don't know if we're going to get off this, but I wanted to talk about what ended up happening to me from a marketing perspective with home security was that I ultimately was a kid that had to start his own business. And I know that that's why I get along well with the roofers, because most roofers, it's not an attorney, it's not a doctor, it's somebody who went into business for themselves. And most of the time, Madison, you may not be aware of it, but a lot of business people like myself, it was more of what I felt, and I feel like we felt was mandatory or had to be done. So I didn't go through and do a traditional education, and I had to get working. And so at the time, being young, I mowed lawns and painted curbs, and I eventually found myself in a little higher echelon business, which was home security, after I got out of my teens and early 20s. And so I'd gotten into home security, and the first time around, I guess in age of 22 or so. But the next business, and I shut the first one down because I just simply wasn't good enough at business yet. And by the time I had reached like 26, 27, 28, I got good enough to run a business, and I got into it. And roughly around the time I got into digital, I think I was in around 30 or so, roughly. So I would have been around 30-ish years old around this time, 29, 30. And I was good enough in business, had learned enough skill sets, had enough empathy for other people's possessions and how we function, providing decent customer service, and business services, that I was able to maintain a business. But as I kept going, I realized that marketing was key. Like I would run an ad on I specifically remember running billboards and going, oh my God, that was horrible. The return was so bad, and being scared. Like, I can't stay in business this way.
Yeah,
and
it's just a huge expense.
Yeah, to go spend back then, the half size billboards, we did 20 of them, and to get 2 jobs and waste $15,000 when we paid for everything ourselves. We didn't have loans or private equity or any of that stuff, and we don't now either. But to have that happen, or to do radio ads and to have that happen, to not make any return. And so I was constantly searching for, okay, what's the best return to make the phone ring? Auto dialing was fantastic. We left messages on the answering machine. People still do that today, but it's illegal, right? So we don't do illegal stuff.
In this case, I get calls from a Chinese national on the other side with the automated messaging, and it's always hilarious to hear those, oh, here it is again.
I don't know what you get, but as a business owner that has websites, the most called thing is for digital marketing.
I bet.
Make sure your GMB account, is your Google account showing up? We can help you with that. Do you want to get to the top of search rankings? So it's one of the most called things. But we did this work and and did well with that one, and then I got into other stuff, and I tried everything after I lost that. And I got into doing marketing online, and the organic was fantastic. Google mapping, when it came along, was fantastic. Pay-per-click at the time was fantastic, but became pretty quickly non-effective.
Prohibitively expensive.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And so as I got into it, and I actually got out of home security and got into something else temporarily, and that business that I had, I got going with digital marketing again, and got organic going, and I raised revenue about, it wasn't a ton. I think I went up by about 20%, but it doubled my net profit. So I went up about 20%, but when I went up that much, it doubled my net. Sold that business in 2.5 years and started this company. And so that's how I got involved. That's where the marketing started. That's how I got into digital marketing. And it finally became apparent to me that nothing really mattered before marketing. So
I see.
Nothing matters really at all in business before marketing. All business is marketing. I've gotten to be a purist on my thought process towards it, because I wake up every morning thinking about marketing, even in this business. So we market for people to market, and then I think about marketing every day, as opposed to and that's why I do podcasts. And I don't really do anything, at least in the first half of my day, unless it's related to marketing thought processes. Unless I stop to take care of my health or something, or to work out, my brain's on marketing. Because without getting a lead, without branding the company, without showing up online, nothing else matters. You can be the best roofer in the world, the most honest and trustworthy, and the best price. Nobody would ever find you. And you can be kind of just a shystery sales guy and run over everybody and get found. Now, you can't be a shystery sales guy and make it long term, but the guy that's the shystery sales guy that some other roofer loves to hate, that sees his success level, if he then becomes good at service, he's the best roofer. So you can start up and not know anything about roofing and be horrible and be a great marketer, and then eventually slowly become good at running your roofing crews and service, and then you can actually become the best because you focused on marketing, because that was your centric focus. It was all about marketing for the guy, and those are the people that do best in society as a whole, hands down, always. So I got into just doing marketing.
I think it's been interesting to watch the American market and our return to emphasis on skilled labor jobs and the importance behind getting that experience, behind going to those technical schools and learning about that stuff. I think it's been fantastic to see the return to that. At the same time, those old schools of thought often relied on traditional marketing, like you talked about, that billboard, the radio ads, maybe even TV ads, and that simply just hasn't been.
So a trade skill has become slightly more important because you could just be a horrible business owner and dupe everybody forever. I can think of people in my past like this that had businesses that were horrible. Horrible to people, horrible to clients, horrible customer service, did a bad job. And the only thing really out there was the Better Business Bureau, which basically kind of extorted people and only took negative reviews. But you could kind of get around that stuff a little bit and provide pretty bad service. But nowadays with Google reviews, Yelp reviews, BBB reviews,
There's no getting around that.
Facebook reviews, no. You've got to provide good service as well. And so, yeah, there has been an increased emphasis on service, but service and reviews is digital marketing and organic ranking. I mean, it literally affects that. It affects the brand of the company and affects how they show up online. So, yeah, I guess an expertise on a skill set's important, but it's really, my most cynical version of that is that if there has been a shift towards that, it's only because society was forced to do so because of transparency of service online now. Most people wouldn't have had the integrity level to perform that. And now the straight salesperson can get going in business and not care in the beginning, but if they don't care long term, they'll still go out of business if they don't service the client, because it'll eventually come out online. And
on the flip side of that, if they don't have the marketing like you've talked about, and even if they do have the skill, they'll never be found in the first place or develop that client base.
Yeah, there's tons of people like that. That's tragic, really, but that's the average person.
Yeah.
That's most people. There's the people that go nuts online or social media and all that, or sometimes, and we all know it, are some of the hokiest people there are, but there they are.
Yeah.
And they're doing well.
Yeah, I think it's hard to remember that for every company that's made that page one rank for that awesome keyword, there's hundreds that are lining the
hundreds
back
of them.
end of Google.
The number one reason they're all sitting back there is they can't get it through their head. I was talking to somebody just yesterday who was going off about who he wanted to become, but he was so lost in all this grand stuff that he was going to do that I just, if I had to bet money on it, I just know there's a very low chance he's ever going to take the right moves to move forward with the brand. Because he's all worried about what other people do, but he couldn't see to how to get started, and he might have been fine, and he might have been better than the other people up there. But yeah, there's hundreds of people. The main problem with all those people back there is they don't commit to their marketing. They don't think about it properly. They don't wake up and think about their brand as it relates digitally online. And they don't understand that those branding signals and the things that Google can read will ultimately affect everything about their life. This guy was more angry about it than wanting to play. And I was like, hey, look at the positive side. There's something called Google Local. Used to be called Google Local. They changed it like 100 times. Now called Google My Business. But essentially it's a local format that 75% of people search. Do not go to paid ads. Go to mapping. Go to organic. Go to reviews. And it's still there. And almost nobody gets serious about it. Almost nobody.
That's unbelievable. Yeah.
So if everybody got serious about it, this phone here that's on multiple platforms, that's pretty well exposed online, right? We have good exposure. We're industry leaders. We ring all the time. If people were really, fully consciously aware about the ramifications of what they do.
If they knew how much it contributed towards their bottom line, their revenue potential.
They don't think about it. They make false narratives up about, because I hear it all the time, well, I can't, and in their head, they're negative and reinforcing, I can't be like that guy. Those people pay a fortune. He's huge. All those people all started at nothing. Nobody in roofing, maybe if it was, it's possible if it's space exploration that you started PayPal to get there, right? That somebody had means. But nobody who went into roofing, 99.9% of the roofers, at least 99% of them had zero funding, zero help, zero family, no silver spoons, all fought and got up there and then became big. But people see them up there and think they can't do it or think it's going to cost too much. Are you shocked at how little we charge people for some of the stuff that we do?
Yeah, I'm amazed just on, I know the amount of work that I put in when I was back on working on some of the client sites, the sheer number of hours that go into writing the pages, and that's not even the design, the coding, and all that.
The back-end support for software that we have here on the site, all that stuff, and it's inexpensive. But people don't think that. It's inexpensive comparatively. Although I did have a guy about a week ago call up, and he was so angry. He'd had a 10-year-old website up. He was in a major market. He's a roofer. The site was busted, old, jacked up. It wasn't even WordPress. I think it was like HTML or HTML or something. And it was really old and messed up, and it was fine. I don't care that it's old and messed up. I'm not here to judge people. What I had trouble with, and I actually defended the other person, the current web company, because it was important for me to illustrate it to him what was going on. But he had paid a $99 hosting fee for years, and he said, well, they promised they'd keep it up to date. They promised they'd do this and do that. I'm going to call and get this downloaded and get a copy of it before I start. And I'm like, okay. I said, it's a worthless site, but okay, I can understand you want to feel comfortable. He's like, I'm going to make this guy give me a brand new WordPress site because he guaranteed me that he'd stay up with stuff. I said, sir, seriously. I said, I'm going to have to step in and say something here because I said, this may not help me get your business, so you're being highly unreasonable. He said, well, $99 is expensive for a hosting fee. I said, not really. I said, not really, because you could have gotten the hosting for $10 and done it yourself for $8, right? Could have gone to GoDaddy, maybe $6. I don't know, $6, $8, $10, right?
Yeah.
But you chose to be able to have an American that could speak to you do it. I said, that's your fee for calling and doing that. And then you had access to resources to do more, which you chose not to do. I said, but they did their part for that $99. Point being, in telling a story, and it paid enough to have anything done at all. But we have products and services that are far less than $1,000 now. In fact, I've driven some of the pricing down recently for some of the services because of software integration features. Because the client's beginning to do some self-assisted SEO help.
Oh right? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you've seen some shifting in here on how we do it. I don't know. You see the pricing in our system, so
sometimes
you may not go through it, but I've actually driven some of the pricing down because of the software that we created in our sister company now, that we don't have to pay for as much because someone else, but same price. We actually pay the same price that we would charge somebody else for it once it goes to the market. But a lot of the services out there, you'd have to pay hundreds just to add review and reputation management and brand software. But but we buy it for a seat fee. That's what anyway. It drives the cost down.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't want to get too far off. What other you had a structure?
Oh, I have a whole list of
A whole
questions
list of
here
things.
for you.
All right.
But we've covered a lot of ground here. Before we charge ahead any further, let's cover some basic terms here. Like we've talked about digital marketing, we've talked about SEO.
Yeah.
But let's there's a lot of marketing channels out there. So let's establish our terms here. So two-part question.
Yeah.
What is digital marketing for the beginner? Like what is digital marketing, and what's the difference between digital marketing and SEO?
So when we first started this, I used to tell people that we were an SEO company.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess early on, that's what we were. It
Mm-hmm.
started with just me, and eventually a few people. Robert was one of the first people here,
Mm-hmm.
and we were SEO for years. I'd say about 4 years ago or so,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4 or 5. So it's been about 9.5 years, roughly. We're getting close to 10. This year we'll hit 10 years.
We'll have to throw a party.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Those things always make me uncomfortable, but maybe I'll come to one. But yeah, so it's been close to 10 years, and about 4 years ago I started calling ourselves a digital marketing agency, because a digital marketing agency does a whole suite of things digitally. I don't think that any digital marketing agency could possibly do all digital things.
Definitely not.
But by the time you do partake in SEO, and we're a Google Ads partner, and we can manage pay-per-click, and we can manage ad spend on Facebook and Instagram and other things within Facebook and Instagram, like funneling and stuff like that, you definitely could say, hey, we're a digital marketing agency. In a different company, I'm now a software company, you know. But a digital marketing agency to me would just be someone that did more than one thing and had a suite of services that they offered.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have redundancy and different skill sets here by dozens of people that would be constituted as a digital marketing agency.
Mm-hmm.
Reality on all that is that we can do all of it, and we do great at organic and pay-per-click management and social media. My personal favorite thing that we do here is organic and SEO.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we're just really so much better than other people at it. If you look around, we're clearly above that. And now with software integrating features and our in-house software management, we're just superior at the organic side of things. And the organic side of things from an SEO perspective, being 75% of search and getting a great deal like they do here at the Webmasters, it's just that client's a more stable client and gets the best return on their marketing dollar with SEO.
Mm-hmm.
But SEO is kind of one of those words that's been misunderstood, misquoted, definition gone awry.
Mm-hmm.
But because SEO really is all things within the realm of organic marketing, and that's primarily going to exist on the Google platform and external items that affect the Google platform.
Right. I think a lot of people, they know Google, but they don't realize all the factors that lead into the search process.
Right.
There's so much more than just, the search bar that you type those words into.
So the design, the code base, the content,
Mm-hmm.
the Google My Business account, citations, and a lot goes in with just those things that I mentioned. There's hundreds of things that go into it. Mm-hmm. Proper content, lots of it. You still can't show up properly on mapping, and you absolutely won't show up on organic without a page of content. We have someone right now that's the marketing manager for the client. So I had set the client up that the marketing manager at the company is upset with us because we have so many pages of content, and they want to have those go into bullet points on a homepage and have like a 3-page website. And we can't optimize the site without it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to do nearly as well as it would. But you got to have all those things: code base, content, lots of great code base. We do over 100 points of schema code. You have to have citations, and you have to have your GMB account set up properly. And then these things need to be worked on regularly. And there's other external factors that can play a role, like direct traffic or from Facebook or other things that you might do. links and all kinds of stuff. And then Google grades all of it regularly. Things like integrated features like brand review, those that allows you to post check-ins with a geocode of where you were located on the job that goes on a map that Google can read. It's like raising your hand and saying, hey, Google, I was here doing this roof. Please recognize as I was in this city, did this roof at this geolocation is represented by this pin drop on a map that you can read as a schema check-in code. By the way, here's a custom photo of the job, and here's a caption I wrote. That's extremely good, relevant content that helps with SEO, not only on the organic, but definitely helps the GMB account. Also text and emails to clients so they can get more reviews, direct links to your Google, Facebook, BBB reviews. Those are, I guess, expertise, authority, and trust signaling to Google. And all of that stuff goes back into organic and what people would call SEO or search engine optimization to help show up your keywords and your map ranking and reviews, which is still 75% of search to Google for local service businesses.
Yeah.
Right.
And you've definitely shown like all the hard work and all of the aspects that go into SEO, and there's still many more things that Nolen hasn't mentioned that goes into the process. With digital marketing, I think, as you've also mentioned, I think something that shows an authentic digital marketer is that they don't try to tackle everything at once. They don't claim to be the expert on everything. And even though we do a lot of stuff, we conserve our efforts, and we try to drive the best results by focusing on that content, on the SEO, on, in some cases PPC,
software
and all of that. And I think that's one reason why many companies, they don't succeed in the digital marketing realm. They try to either do everything or they just focus on one point.
Problem with some of it is if you go in now, if my issue is a lot of the digital marketing agencies that are really large and doing well do an integrative marketing approach for the client and end up charging thousands. So they might charge someone an average of $5,000 a month, and they try to integrate in pay-per-click management and other things. And the reality is that they don't really do anything great on organic at all. And then they take mass amounts of the money for management. So somebody gives them $5,000, they take 3,000 of it. And they take some for SEO, which they do a poor job of. They take some for content or GMB map work or some little software feature or some sort of management line that they just put on an invoice. And then they do PPC management fee, and they take so much of it, and then they do a little bit on pay-per-click. And if you're some company that does that, you make so much if somebody lasts a year or a year and a half.
You can still afford it.
You can still afford it. So there's massive amounts of people calling, getting everybody they can find, roofers and everyone else included, and saying, hey, for the best thing ever, we're going to do funneling and geofencing and best stuff since sliced bread.
Social fortress.
Social fortressing.
Yeah.
So we're making fun of industry click words that don't mean anything new, that make it sound fancy, and then someone calls and sells us. The problem with it is they're doing third-party reports. They don't even know how much the cost of the clicks are. Everything's clouded and muddied to where the client can't tell what's going on. Client gets dismayed, thinks that all SEO is bad, when in reality they didn't have any SEO work done to speak of. And they took all the money in management fees, and the client doesn't even know this happened, by the way. They think that if they paid them $5,000 or $3,000 or whatever it was, if they're paying them $5,000, they might have done $1,000 in management fees. In fact, their reports might actually look like that. Little did they know that it was third-party reporting, not straight from Google, and that the cost per click wasn't that high. And if we do that extra digital marketing work for somebody, we bill it separately as transparent billing. But it puts a bad taste in people's mouths about SEO when SEO is so clearly hundreds of % better than paying for a click or buying a lead. Now, I don't have problems with other forms of digital marketing at all. I just know that the organic is so clearly better when somebody does show up. It makes it easy for someone to look at it and say, monetize it and say, hey, I'm really happy with the return on marketing dollar that I'm getting here. But when someone goes in, and then after that, you have to be really careful. Some people like a lead source. Some people like paid, and you'll usually have something else with it much of the time. I could argue that too, to just go hardcore branding, by the way, with all the effort. But there's nothing wrong with buying a lead or buying a click or paying money to some social media if you find that it returns.
Yeah.
Problem is with most digital marketing agencies, like you said, they'll just go wrap a package together that monetarily benefits the agency.
Yeah. Amberlyn and I actually talked about it the other day when we were talking about leads. People like to say, oh, you got to do it this way, or, oh, you got to use this particular channel of leads, or, it's not going to be effective. I think so many times it's so liberating just to say, you know what? Organic's great. PPC is great. Find what gets you that best return.
Yeah.
And if you want to supplement other ways, go
That's
for
exactly what I tell everybody, by the way, when I'm talking to them on the phone. So the way that I choose to manage this company and to structure it, we would have to charge thousands to structure it differently, to do an integrative approach with marketing that doesn't return as well for the client. So, and by the way, how'd you like to get stuck in a year agreement for $4,000, be pretty average, and not even know if the paid was working, but you're stuck in it for $48,000?
For the next 11 months after that launch.
11 months after you figured out you didn't like it. Yeah, if you're paying for a click, you'll know in 4 to 8 weeks. You pay for something for 6 weeks and you don't get a return when it's a paid response item, why would you continue? It's not organic. It's not going to get better. It doesn't ebb and flow up. You know exactly how much you bought. You know exactly what the return was. So yeah, when people do those paid items, organic is something that you support your brand. It's very valuable. Clicks are very inexpensive, and you pay for it. When it goes on to a pay-per-click, pay-per-lead scenario, you know immediately. You might wait 2 months just for good measure, but how long are you going to go before you? Because what they'll tell people now, what they used to tell people back in the day is like, oh, it takes about 6 to 8 months to get this SEO to work, which isn't the case anymore. It can go much faster because of some of the, Google has released some of these guidelines on how old the web effort is and how long it takes. So if somebody starts checking in, getting photos, getting reviews,
that local web effort goes up much faster.
It goes up way faster than it used to. But the industry still loves to tell people 6 to 8 months. And then they changed and you started using that. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, for paid. I go, oh, I'm spending $5,000 a month. I'm dying over here. They're like, sir, the paid can take a while. Just wait. It'll get better. It doesn't get better for paid. Now, I will say this. If I'm a roofer, I might not spend as much money on paid in January as I did in April. Because there's less, you might still have some clicks, but less response, less conversion because it's
seasonal stuff.
20 degrees outside. But they'll get stuck in these deals, pay the same amount for January as they did May, which is ridiculous, and then much less get stuck. And then when you call the salespeople back at the company, which are supposed to be your account rep, really nothing more than salespeople trying to keep them on the line, they tell them to wait, that paid is going to get better. It's a lie. It's a straight up lie that paid gets better. I could see maybe on a roof up to a couple of months just to be safe, but that's plenty of time to determine whether or not it worked or not. And past organic keyword ranking, map placement, reviews, and branding, which is your organic Google effort, which is Google's 90% of it. I get tired of even talking about Bing and Yahoo. It's ridiculous at this point. It's Google 90%. And but it works on Bing. Our services work on Bing, just to throw that out there. But it's not even worth.
We're legit.
It's not worth the discussion.
Yeah.
Bing and Yahoo maybe used to be 30%, but they're absolutely not anymore. So you have all this stuff up there, and you might find some other stuff. I do have a few clients here and there that say they like this paid lead source or that one. I don't want to mention all of them, but we know who they all are. So they're going to buy a lead. One gets sold to 5 people, and other ones they pick you from a list of people, and you get reviews in that platform, and they might like that too. And that's fine. I'm a marketer at heart, so I don't have a problem if somebody has a lead source they like, and organic's a no-brainer, and then you might try paid, you might try social media, you might try paid leads or PPC.
But, Nolen, one of the, I think, with digital marketing, especially when compared with traditional, one of the hardest parts, I think, for a roofer is that, especially with SEO, it's so much harder for them to track the process. I spent my money here. This money created this effort, and this effort directly created this result.
Correct.
The connection between digital marketing and sales is, in many cases, much harder to link together, at least in a concrete way, when compared to radio, television, because people call in, hey, I saw your TV ad, or hey, I saw your radio ad. So what is the best way for roofers to see a meaningful connection between digital marketing and sales?
So it's a really loaded question you just asked.
Oh, it's very loaded.
And I think you know why. But so a business person that's proud and has, and runs their business and has an ego like every human being, and aggressive males that are aggressive enough and gutsy enough to have started a business in the first place, tend to see things black and white on what they had a hand in. So I'll even take it away from because I disagree with the radio and the billboard, because they'll say the same thing about the internet. We saw you online, we saw radio, we saw TV, we heard the traditional stuff. Madison is just gone. So that stuff is just gone. Where the problem comes in here is multifold, but it does have to do with the conception of it that you talked about. So the perception. So how they perceive their marketing dollar and what the return actually is. Since a roofer doesn't actually do the labor, which we all know that is painstaking, back-breaking labor that is not rewarding for the digital marketing people that are doing it as much, right? Just sitting there toiling away, doing hours and hours of labor on all this stuff. They don't see any of that. But if a roofer goes and pays for his own Facebook ad, he had a hand in it, and he would very frequently disassociate the stuff that actually makes the money and apply it to what he did himself. So whether he did that or sent out postcards or paid for a Facebook ad distribution, which probably didn't do anything to speak of for him, he might apply it to it. I actually have had tons of experiences, unfortunately, with this sort of thought process. I'm thinking about some guy that hired this real slick-talking guy to do Facebook ads for him. He had gone through the wintertime, which gets less leads for every roofer. From roughly October through February, you get less leads, but you pay for your organic marketing. And then as soon as spring hits, boom, it's up and starts going. Still get some benefit during the off season, but you get less benefit.
Naturally,
but it still gets some, and you have to work on marketing all the time. And so they had paid money and had 30,000 impressions of a distributed ad on Facebook. And specifically remember talking to the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's still a client. But he had called up and said, this is so fantastic. And they're paying thousands for this, way more than they're paying us, by the way. This client is very dominant in their part of town with us. In fact, went from himself answering the phone, and he had another job, to quitting that job and having 2 people answer the phone in his office, and doing hundreds of roofs per year. That 30,000 distribution or 30,000 impressions of a Facebook ad possibly didn't get 1 phone call. And I brought that up to the guys I'm talking to him. He said, oh, no, this thing got 30,000 impressions.
That means people may have been exposed to that, but they may not even have read it in that time.
And what are the chances that any of them needed a roof right then? Because it wasn't a direct response platform like Google. Now Facebook's doing some changes, and they're starting to listen to conversations, and you might see an ad.
Yeah, that's sometimes a little scary, actually.
But beyond that, Facebook doesn't have a direct responsibility. And so I talked to him, and I said, look, I know that ad was ineffective, because this was like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Still a client, by the way. He was a client for 2 years before that. He's been with us a long time. And he said, no, this guy came in. So he put his money with it. The point is, he paid for this guy. This guy comes into his office once a month and smooches him and runs a little simple Facebook campaign, does almost nothing, and then takes his money and paid for distribution on Facebook. As his season kicks off, and as there's hail, and it hailed, and people begin to call off of the organic website, but he's paying and dealing with this guy schmoozing him and he saw 30,000, he thinks that all of his benefits coming off of Facebook, all of it. So he moves his head over to that and starts to view that because he has a hand in it and he's watching it. And he's getting some analytics from Facebook, but he doesn't ever bother to learn his Google analytics. It's very difficult to go into Google Analytics, as you know, and to catch how many clicks are coming from where, map impressions, unique clicks, direct traffic, all that kind of stuff, right? How many keywords are up. And so I said, okay, I'm going to call your bluff on it, and I want you to call me back. I never heard back from him. He never canceled. I said, put a tracking number on it, and I want to hear all about it. Because I'm going to tell you, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's all bogus. You're wasting thousands with this guy. And you could have called up and asked us what else we could have done because we built this whole business for you. You know, we could have gone through other stuff.
Heck, we even offer Facebook advertising.
Yeah, and it would have been transparent, and you wouldn't have had to pay all that for an in-house, you know, marketing expert, which is usually bogus too, a whole different topic, right? But so I never heard back from him again. I don't think he does Facebook advertising anymore. But if someone disassociates with it and then doesn't realize what's happening, it would be my wish for every client that and I'll answer the question too, but I want to talk about this whole perception issue. For every client, not only to realize where the money's coming from and not spend money on marketing techniques that didn't work, but to embrace their brand fully on a digital perspective. Because if people really understood how valuable it is to organically optimize and that they can actually go up by hundreds of % in the reach, could you imagine if anybody even got close to a quarter as much as I do on a digital footprint for a brand recognition, what it would do? You know, it's really, it would literally go up by 100. So a roofer that's already successful, that's already happy, if they embrace digital branding with reviews and check-ins and captions and maybe other stuff like videos or podcasts or stuff like that, or work on their GMB account, for example, that they would go up hundreds of % more for digitally branding themselves, and that how much more valuable that is when something's already worth hundreds of % more than the next best lead technique. It'd be insane. Now, all they have to do right now is brand review is to partake in that, and that's going to be thousands of % more activity than most people have on their website, and reviews and all that just by partaking in brand review. It takes about 3 minutes a job. And then their branded digital footprint goes through the roof compared to what they could otherwise have. But yeah, the perception is huge. They do have to be able to track some of that, not lose sight of what was going on. Because if someone starts today with us and starts and does, you know, they did 25 roofs last year, and then they start with us and do 50, and then 100, and then 200, and then they're down here with, you know, 200, 300 roofs a year, and they started with us down here. They have a hard time remembering it, you know, and then the workload never stops. And then if that person really committed to it and thought about it, I don't have a great response to this. The client would have to look at organic search results, but because they never learn enough about it, most people don't ever learn enough about it to attribute those search results to success in the business. Because I'm telling you, somebody can go in and look and have 1,000 clicks or 5,000 map impressions, which is common. 3,000 map impressions is a common thing to have. 1,500, 1,000, 5,000, depends on the size of the market. They can have hundreds of clicks. They can have all sorts of conversion signals on there, direct calls, all sorts of things, and not in that those numbers be arbitrary in their head because they don't have enough information in their head to digest that.
I think there is a false narrative, like you mentioned earlier, that pops up. Obviously, roofers aren't trained. Like, they don't go to school. They don't do the research because, you know, they're roofers. They have a job to do, and, you know, digital marketing is not what they trained for.
Right.
But the thought comes in the head. Okay, I don't quite understand this, so there's no clear connection between SEO and the ultimate payoff. Whereas we're here on the other side, and I was just looking at reports yesterday. I can literally go in on a client's website and see, okay, I can see where this person hopped onto the website from a Google search. I can see they went to this page, and then, they clicked the link to call the company. I can literally see the entire process from search to call
Right.
of how they got the lead. And that's there. That reporting
So
is
if
only
the
getting
client
better too.
isn't careful,
Yeah.
they will say that I did a Facebook ad, therefore they went there. But you can actually see whether they came in from the Facebook ad.
Yeah.
So you have to actually go in and look at it. So from that guy that's still a client 3 years later, let me say this, most clients stay and are happy clients for years. But as you and I know, there's a group of them that will leave arbitrarily, even doing extremely well in business because they don't understand any of it.
Or they don't ask us about it.
And they don't ask about
Yeah.
it. And you could call and go through it, and we have and do, but the stuff looks arbitrary to them. So it's, if you really think about it, and if you went through it, most people stay and understand it. But some people get confused and lost in the whole thing because they don't see all the other work going on. I think it's starting to change a little bit though, and I'm happy about us having brand review because the client can get, then the client's interactive. The only thing, Madison, that I've ever been able to get a client to do, I used to start out and we put a blog up and go, hey, there's a blog here. This is like 10 years ago, 9 years ago. You can blog. Oh, okay. And back then, blogging was like really valuable, right? Now it's just kind of valuable, but it's just one of the things to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one thing to do.
Part of doing business.
Part of it. So I would argue that other stuff is more valuable than a blog, like check-ins and pictures that are custom.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, guess how many people did a blog out of hundreds of people that were set up for blogs?
1 or 2.
It was 0. It was actually 0. And so we stopped having a client do blogs, and then we started doing blogs if we do it. Now we've got packages that don't have blogs, and we do check-ins and captions and photos and cut some of the cost out of it for the client, because I would rather see a client get 100 jobs a year and get 600 changes to their website from Righteous Review with custom check-ins, captions, photos on 2 different pages plus other stuff than to see like a dozen blogs or 50 blogs.
Because we see more impact from that.
You see more impact. It's more relevant data. It's a unique geocode or that. But anyway, so the client is starting to get more interactive, which will give them more perception of what actually happened because they participated and spent 3 minutes every job taking a photo of the job, getting on web-based app, going, I'm in this city, I did this service, here's my photo, caption, just did roof replacement in Springfield IL, and here's client cell phone number, check in. And then when they do that action, they're going to be involved in getting a photo on their website, a red pin drop check-in that can be read with a caption and a text over to the client and or email. They put it in, and then they were directly involved on a regular basis, and their people that they tell them to do it. And so the client interaction will be there. But that's the only other thing. Well, let me rephrase it. Reviews is the only thing that a large percentage of business owners have rallied behind. The only thing on a Google level. The only other thing that business owners rallied behind on the web, besides just getting someone else to put up a website for them, is social media. The fallacy of the whole thing, the problem is that business owners saw consumers on social media. And I don't have a problem. I like some of the new paid on Facebook, by the way, but it's ever so recent that I'm starting to like it because it's direct response.
Yeah, they have a lot better targeting as well. these days.
So I'm not entirely doing that, but Google is still resoundingly the best source for them to get all their business from. Facebook with some new direct response and voice recognition stuff I like, finally. But they saw the consumer doing Facebook and social media, so they did it, but they get no business off of it. At the same time that they're doing all this postings that they're getting almost no business on, completely ignored Google, which would provide them with all their business. So the Google accounts went stagnant, right? Didn't work on their GMB, Google My Business account, didn't ever add anything to the website, didn't pay anything to work on pay anybody to work on the website, and then dismayed and confused about why doesn't this work? Well, you do a post a day and do on your Facebook account and a video every once in a while, and you get nothing on it, and you've done 0 to your website for 3 years straight. And every once in a while somebody leaves you a review. And so I was just talked to a roofer this morning, and they're just like, well, can you say what's wrong with their website? And I looked at it and said, well, it's optimized improperly. There's almost no content and never gets worked on, for starters. Jason looked at it, and creative director, and it had no semantic markup, no schema, and was an old busted up WordPress thing. Been up there for years, never worked on. They call around talking to digital marketing agencies that claim to do this stuff and pay money for it. Nobody's touched their website in years. And so, but anyway, so getting clients involved in their branding aspect, which they're beginning to do, is going to help with some of this perception.
Yeah. It's amazing how even with all the work we do, the impact that somebody doing righteous reviews or somebody continually remembering to ask people to submit reviews, even if they don't use righteous reviews for some reason, that impact that it has on both their branding, their customer retention, and their lead generation on organic is just amazing.
We've had people just shooting through rankings like nobody's business because it's one of the best opportunities that has existed in recent history. And in my opinion, branding with check-ins and captions and photos and that interaction of actually having every job become an organic opportunity is the best thing since people, which we never did, by the way, we really didn't, but it's been the best thing, that opportunity since someone could have thrown in erroneous links out of India, which was 2013 since that was available.
Yeah, it's been a while since that's been
There hasn't been a sitting duck deal, and this one's legitimate. So since no one's doing it yet, I say there's still several years before somebody can just go into market and start doing this and get better signaling quickly.
I am starting to see more mentions of it on Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Land and those other ones, but it's still only mentioned mostly in passing.
Dude, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. So new people starting out that are sick of it and get a spiel from me on it, those are the people going to do it. But people that are already entrenched, you're not going to get a business owner already in the Pack 3, already up to do it. By the time he realizes that he's dropped out of the Pack 3 and is not an organic anymore because 3 young bucks got up and started doing this.
And took the effort.
It's too late. You'll have to, I mean, he'll be able to get going a little bit, but he's going to, I say all old timers that are taking up ranking because of check-ins and captions and photos are doomed. It's just a matter of time of how many people are going to get into branding their website properly.
Now that brings up a good question, and since my battery's a little bit low, we may have to end on this one. There have been, it's an ever-changing landscape, digital marketing, and for somebody who's never started, who's never put in the effort, or they've fallen behind so far in the last few years, they might be thinking to myself, is it worth even trying now?
Yeah, I remember you had that question. So this is the best opportunity they've had. Now, back in 2014 and 15, I don't know if you had heard this because you weren't here back then, but I would not start a new website for somebody.
I've heard, yeah.
So Google's algorithm was so serious about tenure, how long the .com had been up. Forget about GMB because it still wasn't even a thing back then to speak of. People used it, but no one was thinking about it. That's only been since 2016, 17, 18 range that it got heated.
And people started using it more often.
Yeah, 17, 18 it's only been, and people can think back, reviews have only been pretty recent. 3 years, it's been serious. Before that, nobody got too serious.
And now you can't get by without it most of the time.
Now you can't get by without it. Yeah, so what happened was that the algorithm about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago de-emphasized tenure. They still give credibility for it, but it allowed somebody to come in that had a brand new .com that was able to get into search ranking with that rather quickly, as long as they did great design, code-based content, GMB account work, and start getting reviews, and preferably check-ins, photos, captions like we do with righteous reviews and all that. And we had a client recently in Chattanooga, Tennessee, go up in ranking on MAP within 6 weeks, and within 3 months was dominating organic.
Yeah, that's going up on our client success story page.
So that was uncanny. And he was one of the first and best proponents of using righteous reviews on every single job he did.
And that was when we started realizing that Google was starting to reward local results much faster.
And what was weird about it to me, really, is that the GMB account was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And he only had 7 reviews and went to the Pack 3. But what was weird about it was that it was basically through use of righteous reviews. And even though he's getting check-ins, captions, and photos on the website, they were filtering through the GMB account. You want to hear what our theory on that is, actually? Because I was talking to Jason about it and JMatt.
Yeah.
The theory is, this came from JMatt really, but the theory is that if you look at an organic perspective and you type in a keyword like roofers in Chattanooga, TN, they might have 800,000 results. We believe that they're taking the check-ins, since it's a local signaling factor, and they're filtering the check-ins through GMB. So GMB only has 100 roofers there in Chattanooga that have accounts. And so the signaling through GMB, it's like, boom, we just like made a huge ripple in this tiny pond with all this activity, and none of these other 100 guys have this.
They don't have any geolocation data that actually shows where they are.
It's just local activity filtered through GMB. We believe that they're spidering the website and filtering that on-page activity back through GMB, which it only has competition of 100 people. Now, if you take the organic content as a whole and go out to the World Wide Web, they've got to compete against 800,000 people. So 800,000 points of information. And then, but his organic did go up to number 1 on lots of them and in the top 3 on everything. And he's in the Pack 3. Did you know it has no bearing if you're number 1, 2, or 3 on map?
Yeah.
Now, if it's
amazing.
organic, it matters. But on the map, if you're in Pack 3, you're golden.
It's about evenly distributed,
It's about evenly
right?
distributed. But so the point is it doesn't matter where he is in the Pack 3. He's in the Pack 3 on all of his keywords now. And but mapping occurred first. Organic was second, and we think that's why. Because it's filtering through fewer results with the branding activity, the expertise and authority to trust coming in from check-ins, captions, and photos. Much less a few reviews. But the 7 reviews, it wasn't enough, because there were people with 100 reviews for him to go to Pack 3. Anyway, so the point is, it's the best time that's ever been for a new person to get going. Because the new person that gets going isn't going to be remiss about those check-ins, captions, photos. They're going to do it on every job. They're going to fight and work on their GMB account. They're going to let us do all of our work, and they're going to participate. Participation is 3 minutes a job. Maybe 5 if they turn the photo back around themselves and threw it over to GMB or did something else with it. It's almost nothing. They could could stay 10 minutes and throw it over to Facebook or something, as well.
Yeah. And hypothetically, somebody who has been in the business but has fallen behind in the digital marketing times, if they were to adopt this stuff, maybe they could see some turnaround?
They could, yeah. Most of the people listening that'll come through and listen to this are newer or fed up but still newer. Most guys that have been online for 20 years will never listen to this and never go into it. They'll just retire.
Yeah.
They might retire with less money because they lost relevance, basically. And they lose relevance and they don't work on their online marketing and other people take them over. But like 5 years ago, those old timers on tenure, they were stuck, it was stuck in concrete when it moved. But you don't see that anymore. Old time sites are going down and down and down for people working on them regularly. In fact, it's uncanny right now. You'll see a guy, I'll get calls from roofers and they'll say, "Where'd this guy come from?" I was like, "Well, he's been up for 18 months. He's like, "Well, I've been around for 10 years. I said, "Well, he's doing this, that, and the other, and you're not doing any of it. That's why he's here." So people are popping up and taking over positions and showing up in ranking and doing all, and then people are wondering, it's like, well, you never work on your website. It's old, doesn't have any code base, content's poor, nothing's ever done to it. You have almost no reviews, or they'll have a lot of reviews. I have a lot of reviews. Why don't I show up? You do nothing else at all. It's not just one thing. That guy's doing a medley of things regularly, and you're doing almost nothing. That's why you don't show up. And so it's not that difficult to do this, but it is that difficult. If you get a poor web company, I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap up here and then do a part 2 on this, because I think we've got more. If you get a good web company to help out, you can put together, that base level has changed. So when Jason and I went to the conference in November or whatever last year, people expect high-end design, high-end code base, tons of schema code, tons of content written properly, set up a GMB and citations. It has to be done. I don't even discuss it.
It's just the basics.
It's basic. People, SSL certificate, that's HTTPS if you don't know what it is. Your mobile friendliness or responsive. People ask me that and I was like, I don't go over all these things anymore. SSL, mobile friendly, custom design, custom code base, tons of schema, custom content, citations. It's basic. It is absolutely basic. Without it, you had to have that basic level, and then you can move up in ranking. And if you add reviews, captions, check-ins, and brandability and all of that, custom photos, then you take this great site and you bump it to the next level. And if somebody does that, then they can get up in ranking and see results. In the meantime, someone's new, they might actually go buy a lead in the meantime too, but they won't be able to sustain on those leads, Madison, from my experience very well, although they won't have it nearly as happy of a time of it.
And that's an expensive proposition for a newbie.
Yeah, they might get a lead that's sold to 5 people. We all know who we're talking about, and they love to hate it. They don't like it, but they take it because it's all they got. But eventually they want their brand to work, and that lead costs a lot, and they pay for leads that aren't real, but they get a job here and there, and they pay the bills. But what they really want to do is brand as dominantly as possible in an organic standpoint. And that is no better time has ever existed than right now, because wouldn't you agree within 3 years there's enough people paying attention to righteous reviews and things like that there's too many people doing branded signaling, and it makes it harder to get in.
Yeah, it's going to be harder to break out of the mold at that point.
There may always be something, but this is the best opportunity I've literally seen in 7 years. So yeah, it's a great chance. It doesn't matter. 3 years from now, somebody's watching this, they're going to have to do whatever they can.
Like, oh, that was new then.
Yeah, they're going to have to do whatever they can. We'll always stay up with it and always provide as much as possible. It'll probably just be more and more that they have to do.
That's good. That's a good takeaway to end on. So we have covered a lot of ground on digital marketing and on SEO, and there's more opportunity for beginners and for experienced veterans falling behind on the digital marketing times to grab hold of your sales and make a break for it on your online marketing. Nolen, thanks for...
Yeah, I want to say something here, by the way.
it.
I listened to a radio show, and a guy gets on and talks about mortgages. No matter what the mortgage rate is, it's the best time to refinance or to buy a home, no matter what. But seriously, this is the best time I've seen of it in a very long time, to the point that I'm willing to the point that we get a new URL up every once in a while really quickly. I don't make promises because we don't own Google,
right?
You know? But people can actually get up and get started right now, and they literally could not do that a year and a half ago, a year ago, and it's gotten better. The technology of the check-in and making changes to individual pages in the website that can optimize, that's all really pretty darn new. People have only been doing this for like 12 months, and it'd be far less than 1% of the business community doing this at this point in time. Very, very few people. But yeah, let's pick it up and finish up some of this stuff on how about a number 2.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. There's still plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I think we've got some stuff that we didn't go over, but yeah, it's been good. I appreciate it. Y'all, for you who don't know, Madison's been doing a lot of the podcasts, but this has been pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a very fun one to do, at least, and some very insightful stuff.
I've got to listen to some of your podcasts, by the way, eventually. I've been busy, man. I haven't, and I've been told they're good.
Oh, thank you. So, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Guys, we'll see you later. I don't know who was moderating and ending up here. I think I took the lead on the
Thanks for listening in, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Take it easy.